All right, good morning. I'm Noah Watts. I'm with UPT. I'm the Tandem Program Director, and we're going to talk a little bit about cultural alignment with Doctrine. Now, the class you had before, which actually was a phenomenal little presentation on future advancement courses and things, but he brought up a lot of good talks, a lot of good subjects, and we're actually going to talk about a few of them kind of here. I would like this to be as interactive as possible. So again, we're all in a sense like the professionals. We're not the problems within the community. It's sometimes those that do not have this opportunity to make it here. Sometimes it's those that refuse to come here. But ultimately, everyone in here, this is kind of like your amnesty time. No one's wrong, all right? Because we're here to make the industry and make just tandem jumping itself better. So if you could just raise your hand so I just kind of know the basics of who I'm talking to, who are examiners. Okay, and then everyone else is tandem instructors. Is there anyone in here that is not a tandem instructor or is inspiring to be a tandem instructor? Anyone? Hey, that's not a problem. We got one. Out of everyone, you're probably going to get the most out of this because there's going to be a lot of people in here that I'm like, whatever, he doesn't know anything. But right now, you're like the perfect molding clay, so don't worry about it. All right, why are we here? Effective change, confirm what's correct, and then, of course, improve ourselves and identify the social risk. All right, if we were to take like a window, okay, and then pane number one or the first bit of window there is, and this is me, I'm identifying my own risk, right? So I look at it and I say, like, okay, this window is what I know about myself and you guys don't know. And pane number two, all right, or the second glass of window, it's what you guys know about me that I don't know. In the third pane, it's, what we both know, everything's fine. And then in the last pane of glass, that's kind of like my childhood issues, mommy, daddy issues, whatever you want to call it. That's just a pane we don't even really, consider or go into. But out of the three panes that we mainly talked about, which one is the greatest risk to me? Anyone? Yes?
Well, no, I know that everyone else doesn't.
Precisely. Me or you? It's the second pane, all right? It's because for me, it's what you guys know about me that I don't know. Do I have something in my teeth? Is there something wrong? Did you hear something about me that I don't know? So in the absence of physical risk, the social risk is always greater, all right? So when dealing with cultural alignment and things like that, all right, you have students that go out somewhere else or you go somewhere, and the things that they don't know of the perception of what other people think about them, all right, is the greatest risk. Because in lack of physical risk, the social risk is greater. All right, how do we achieve this? We have an open mind, all right? We be active with current changes. We accept change. And, of course, how do I get to 9? Sir, what is 3 plus 6? 9. All right, this is good. We're getting somewhere. All right. In the black and red jacket, or the black jacket, red stripes. What's 5 plus 4? 9. And maybe altogether even, what is 12 minus 3? 9. All right. Let's take 9 as being kind of like doctrine, right? But there are multiple ways to do that. We have, different drop zones. We have different personalities and everything else. So with having an open mind, if you guys don't have an open mind, it's kind of like, why be here? I'm going to challenge you, though. With that open mind, challenge me. Find the wrong in any presentations you guys do, because those are the kind of things that we need to improve things or to advance and get better. With being active at current changes, all right, there's a lot of things that change doctrine over time. You go to a drop zone, and it can be someone, I hate to say they're complacent, right? But we know that they're out there. We know that the complacency is a real thing. But ultimately, where does complacency start? Most of the time, it starts with being comfortable, right? It's like, oh, I'm comfortable. Or securing yourself. Or, oh, I got away with it that time. I got away with it this time. Maybe I'm just that good. Whatever. So a lot of times, comfort level turns into complacency, which turns into a mistake later on. Remember, just because you've gotten away with something multiple times doesn't mean it makes it correct. And a lot of times when someone says, hey, he's the experienced one, what does experience normally mean? Well, experience just purely means that you've been doing something wrong longer. All right? So these are all things to think about, especially when you add up any of this with a new student or a new tandem instructor and how they get molded per se, or they go to another drop zone and the influence of that culture that gets put on them. All right? Accepting change. You have to be able to accept the change. Now, on the flip side, we have an examiner. Old, crusty, stuck in their ways. It doesn't really matter. They follow doctrine. They do everything, correct. The jump is for the passenger. It's not for them. They don't care. They don't care to look good, right? You can count on them to be consistent. But here's one problem. That doctrine that they were following was 10 years ago. So again, you have to be able to adapt to the change. You have to be able to stay with what's current. If you can imagine the students that you guys put out, or even some of you guys that are newer instructors, or even an old instructor, it doesn't really matter. When that examiner puts out that student, it's like a nice molded, just a sphere or a circle, right? Clay, whatever. Whatever shape that they leave that examiner with, that first jump that they do, you can pretty much consider it's a direct reflection of the training that was received. And that's great, because hopefully we're giving good training. But over time, people mold it a little bit differently. Now, whether over time that mold happens from more professional training, like the presentation that we had prior to, someone that wants to achieve and better themselves, or maybe it's that cultural alignment of that drop zone. Maybe it's that old instructor that's been doing it their way so long, and that new instructor says, I want to be cool like that guy. I'm gonna go under his wing, his or her wing, and get better that way. So ultimately, in the end, or with doctrine or the change, you guys being able to take what possibly you learn here, challenge it, all right, and add to it with your drop zone rules, with the SOPs, with the manufacturer rules. Some of you guys might be at 5, the newer instructors, and you need to add a little bit of knowledge to get to 9. Some of you guys, all right, will see other instructors, and you might be even that instructor yourself. That's at the 13, the 14, the 15, because you have a lot of knowledge. But in order to get to that new doctrine, in order to get to 9, you have to push aside, what's old of what you're thinking is, what the old is, and you need to recap on what the new is, all right? Now, the great thing with some of that experience that I want you guys to make sure you have is you have to have a reason why, all right? So when coming up with something new, and I'm more than willing to debate or have conversations about a lot of the things that are changing, or some of the things that haven't changed, we're just reinforcing now, all right, in a more direct or a more equal, everyone follows the same rule, all right? But I'll give you a reason why. I'll explain not only why, but what was the past history to get to there. And if there's something that makes sense to change in the future, well, absolutely. If it makes sense and it causes more positive than negative reaction, because let's face it, some changes that might fix one thing causes a chain reaction of 3 in the bad for something else. So if something doesn't change right away, that also might be the reason. We have to have reasons to evolve, but ultimately we have to evolve. So again, if the number 9 is doctrine, am I above it? Are we above doctrine? All right, so right here is just a basic chart, all right? On this side, we have experience or comfort level. On the bottom, we have time. That time can be jumps, it can be months, it can be seasons, it can be days, it doesn't really matter, but over time. So in the beginning, everyone kind of starts at that basic ground zero, right? They're being molded by that examiner. Then over time, they start getting better. They have that season where they get a lot of jumps. Then maybe COVID hit for a while, or they're down for a while, injury, family, it doesn't really matter. And then they're going, and then they start climbing again, whatever. All right? Everyone here has had their own individual journey of experience, and everyone here knows someone somewhere on that line. I'm going to want to say, except for the guy in the very back who's inspiring to be a tandem instructor, obviously you're down here. No offense to you. But let's just put all of us right now high up there on that list. All right? We're high up on the line. As you might see it, you would think that we were above doctrine. And just to be clear, I'm gonna drag some of you guys in here. Some of you might be down here, not a problem, newer instructors. But majority of us, I'm gonna say we're right here. All right? Not a problem. So the way it appears, we would be above doctrine. All right? But that's not the case. That's not this level on the left side. That's our comfort level. That's our experience. That doesn't mean we're above doctrine. Okay? Right there, that means that we've done high altitude tandems. All right? Or in the mountains or whatever. High winds. That passenger, right, that is 6'7", 240 pounds, and doesn't speak your native language. Taking someone that's deaf, that can't, talk, so you can't take their interpreter with you, whatever. So these are things that we have experience with that are extraordinary. Someone that doesn't have the use of their legs, amputees, those kind of scenarios. That's where our level of experience is higher, all right? It doesn't mean that we are above doctrine. So we have to ask ourselves 3 questions, all right? Number 1, is it within doctrine? Because if it isn't within doctrine, we're not doing the jump anyway, all right? Who's the jump for? Is it for the passenger or is it for your ego? All right, remember, ego is the anesthesia that deadens the pain of stupidity. I'll say that one more time for you. Ego is the anesthesia that deadens the pain of stupidity. We've all seen it. Some of us have been there where we're like, oh, we got this. We can do it. I'm that good. All right, but is that the purpose behind it? No. The jump, the tandem itself should be for the passenger. And lastly, is the juice worth the squeeze? All right. How many times it could be within doctrine, it's for the passenger, but I have to drive 2.5 hours to do it. Or you have a huge weather system getting ready to come in. It's just not worth the chance. All the right intentions are there. Everything is good about it's there, but sometimes that experience says, you know what? Right now, maybe we shouldn't do it. All right? But if you can answer yes to all 3 of those, go on the jump. Is every jump going to be perfect? No, but that is why they call it an accident or, something that was just outside of anyone's foreseen knowledge or anything like that. A microburst comes through. A heavy, wind shear or gust comes through. One of those like dust devils, kind of comes through. It's basically like a tornado, but in clear air turbulence. Some of those things, that right there, any one of us can be in that scenario at that exact time and have a mishap, all right? But those are the accidents, the pure accidents. Would we love to live with 0? Absolutely. But when it comes down to it, can you answer yes to all 3 of those things, all right? Now, exit problems, all right? And this is going to be kind of like just a brief briefing, but I'm going to also kind of hint each time where it's like a cultural thing. It's an alignment of wherever that person's working or the experience that they're trying to get, gets influenced. Be prepared. Fundamentals of a good exit and tandem instructor first. These are all 3 things that we're going to talk about when talking about a good exit. Being prepared starts with a good student briefing. How well did we brief the student? Do they know what to do? Now granted, we all know, we've all been there. We can give the best briefing in the world. Bill Booth himself can do it. I could do it. You guys could do it. And you're still going to have that student that possibly does something wrong. Because let's face it, even the best briefing in the world cannot simulate what it's going to feel like for that student right at the edge of the door. Dress for success, inside and out. All right? Dress for success, you, your passenger, and part of that success is that mental rehearsal, that mental dressing. From the very first time you get out of the bed, how are you feeling? Did you get breakfast? Are you on the path of having a good day? You guys are the only ones that can pretty much, answer that, but that is a question to be answered. Expect the unexpected. Had a guy one time, his name was Johnny Ewald. He was on the Golden Knights with me when I was on the tandem section. He told me one time, it's like, I treat every passenger as if they're trying to kill me. Absolutely. There's a lot of truth to that statement because you don't know what that passenger is going to do. So expect the unexpected. Fundamentals of a good exit. Proper setup into the relative wind. Use all available real estate. All right? So the proper setup. We're setting ourselves up into the relative wind. We're getting ready to actually exit the aircraft. So regardless of what aircraft you want to use, if you use the 3 principles, you're going to be fine. Or at least work less. Okay? So proper setup. Use all the available real estate. In a sense, if everyone can imagine, you know, the side of, or the door, right? You have the edge. A lot of times, people stand like this, you know, I'm getting into the plane, or set up into the plane, not a problem. Into the relative wind, all right? My left leg is right next to the edge, my right leg is inside here. The problem with that is I'm losing about 1.5 to 2 feet of real estate on my right leg. Because technically I'm going to push off of my right leg, correct? So in theory, if we're going to set ourselves up for success, we want to get ourselves in, but get that right leg a little bit closer to the door. All right? Now, is that with everyone? No, but as we all know, when something happens, normally there's a trail of crumbs that lead to, you know, the full-size cookie of whatever it was that caused the factor. So these are all small things that, again, can contribute to something happening on the outside. So get that good setup, get that good launch out the plane, or use that available real estate that you could get yourself that much a little bit further from the aircraft. Proper launch. Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. For some of you guys, you know, I like to take the known to the unknown, right? Help you relate. So I'll relate it to you like this. For those of you that have relationship problems, right? And can't commit to something. Leaving an aircraft, you've never been more committed to anything in your life. So commit to it, all right? Don't be afraid. Get yourself out there. But have that proper launch. Don't just fall out of the plane, all right? Actually commit to actually leaving the aircraft with purpose. And, of course, you're achieving stability into the relative wind. That brings us to the proper flyaway. Again, achieving stability. A lot of times, and even the previous videos that we watched in the last presentation, you look at most videos, all right? Achieving stability, getting yourself out of the aircraft. When you back yourselves up to a basic AFF student or someone learning how to skydive, we pretty much teach them the basics, right? And that's arch, get big, the box man position. And pretty much we tell them when you exit, doing that will, for the most part, right you, correct? When you're doing tandems, it's no longer the basics, all right? You draw back to the basics, but we can't draw so far back to we think that just arching and getting big is going to correct everything, because it doesn't. When exiting the aircraft, you have a tandem, or you have someone in front of you, you have something in front of you. So now we start working into weight versus mass versus volume. You know, how much drag does something have? Are we, you know, getting pulled another way? So even though we set ourselves up in the door and we exit, right, if we're just like this, what does that really help? You guys are my relative wind. How much am I flying with my left arm? A lot or a little? Speak freely. A little, very little, right? But if I'm actually going to fly my body or achieve that stability, when I exit, I want to put myself into the relative wind. Get your passenger, and it was said very well in the last presentation, that sometimes that passenger, you have to put him in the relative wind. And in doing so, you're getting out. Where you decide to put that passenger or move them, that's how they're going to get into the relative wind. All right? So achieve stability by actually having a proper launch and flyaway and actually achieving stability prior to throwing the drogue. All right? Does anyone have any questions on that? I'll move on. All right, being the tandem instructor first. Obviously, you want to fly your body. What I mean by the tandem instructor first is you can throw anything on this. You can say hand cam, you can say, you know, my student made me do it, my student was a problem, whatever. That's not the case, all right? How many times, to you tandem instructors, just show of hands or whatever, all right, or nod, whatever, some kind of interaction. How many times have you jumped out of the plane and the student let go of their harness? Yeah. How many times you jump out of the plane and the student no longer has their legs tucked underneath, or they kind of put their legs out and the knees up or whatever? Absolutely. Did you really worry about that, or did you fly your body? Hopefully you flew your body, all right? A lot of times when we get out of the plane, we think that it's the student's fault, and what do we try to do? We try to correct the student. Now again, just like right here, is my left arm flying? Well, I want to try to control the student, so I do this. Now who's flying? Absolutely nobody. And the problem to that also is a lot of times we miss that student's arms, we miss that student's legs, so not only are we not flying, we have someone in the front of us that has no idea that they're flying. Fly your body, be the tandem instructor first. Goes along with the hand cam, all right? Be the instructor first. We're not, a videographer, and we're also not a director, all right? Be the tandem instructor first. It's like, oh, but I have to get that perfect, shot right here. Well, for the exit and flying your body, maybe this is what you got to have, all right? But again, we're being the tandem instructor first and then moving on to whatever it is that might be needed on a secondary matter. All right, outside video, okay? How many times have you guys jumped with somebody else? Probably a couple, right? Outside video or anything like that. Be the tandem instructor first, all right? And where that is you are the tandem instructor, you are the one in charge. Therefore, you dictate, are they front floating? Are they rear floating? Are they going to dive out? Where are they going to be? How are they going to, approach you? All that kind of stuff, the bottom end sequence, everything. Do you allow your camera person to come up and, try to interact with the student, whether it's, a fist bump, or they think they're making everything look better by grabbing onto the student and spinning them, which that's a whole nother conversation, all right, because most of them can't even do it correctly. They try dropping their knees and putting undue stress on that student's shoulder, all right? So these are all things that you guys, as the tandem instructor, need to think about. Third-party flyers. Again, is there a plan? When is the break off? Okay? So again, you guys are in charge of that jump. If someone has an issue with, how you're doing it, it's real simple. Don't do the jump. But you guys are in charge. You guys are the ones that have signed up for taking care of that passenger. Am I the one causing a problem? All right, are you? Was that exit bad? Was that briefing, not complete? Was it a little bit, off on words? You know what you're saying, but did you put yourself in the lowest common denominator, when it came to that, that passenger? It's like, hey, how are you doing? They say, oh, I'm fine, all right? Which pretty much stands for freaked out, insecure, neurotic, and something else, all right? Maybe nauseous or something, all right? So again, are you the one causing this? Are you the one that could have fixed the problem? Have a plan, share it, all right? Everybody should have a plan. Let me ask this. When it comes to emergency procedures, when was the last time everyone went over emergency procedure? At least within 6 months, right? 1 month, every month you guys go over emergency procedures. Every month, perfect. So when was the last time you did a jump?
Last Sunday.
I'm sorry?
Last Sunday.
Last Sunday?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And when was the last time you went over your emergency procedures?
It was last, yeah. It was
last Sunday?
Saturday. Yeah, it was a Saturday or the Sunday before.
It was a Saturday or Sunday, and then you do the emergency procedures. All right, perfect. Now, I'm not picking on them or anything because we've all been there, but this is the answer that I would love for you guys as experienced and as you guys as those that, are going to help spread this word outside of this room. When was the last time you did your emergency procedures? My last jump, probably about 5 or 6 times. Every time I looked at my altitude, I thought about, this is the altitude. If something catastrophic went wrong, this is how I'm exiting the plane. I have a group of people with me. Oh, yep, there you go. I think of worst case scenario, third party entanglement with the drogue, whatever. What am I going to do? What exit am I exiting? How much time am I going to give? There is a difference between teaching emergency procedures and actively thinking about the emergency procedures throughout the skydive when you're doing it. That's when I want you guys to go over, you know, your emergency procedures. As when you're looking at the altimeter or the ride to altitude, start thinking about those kind of things, you know, and be prepared at that moment, not necessarily just because you went over it, you know, every month, which every month is great. I love that, absolutely. But as an individual, if someone asks you that question, it's like, yeah, every skydive. But as a group, we went over it this past Saturday or 2 Saturdays ago, whatever. The new should be paired with the tried and true, all right? Meaning, and I'm not going to go too far in this because I think we all know this, if you have a brand new tandem instructor, let's not pair them with a brand new, you know, video person, all right? It should be, you know, experience to help the other, all right? And when you have 2 experienced people, okay, everyone likes the saying, you know, everyone's a safety officer, right? Or everyone is safe. But in the absence of a designated safety officer, no one's safe. So when it comes down to it. Meaning, I'm experienced, he's got it, I got it, and he does. But in his way, and I do, but in my way. And if we don't collaborate or actually share our plan, or it should be real simple. It's like, hey, I got this, or you got this, or whatever. But talk about it and actually share it. Communicate with one another. All right, this is an exit. She did not know that I was going to use this at all. She didn't even know I was going to look it and watch it, because when she did this jump, she didn't even know I was there. But it's like, hey, let me see some jumps. And this was in Dubai, the desert one, just so you guys know. I'm showing this exit because she is having a boring skydive. She's smiling, she's having fun, but in the grand scheme of things, to her, this is boring because she's doing what she should do and everything else. Now, we could fine-tune a lot of different things, all right? Does she check her handles prior to or after the tap out? Does she does this or does she do that, all right? But the big point of this, because I could do an exit and, you know, make it perfect across the board. But I want you guys to see something that is, you know, out there, and it's being done. So it is a positive thing on the outside. But I want you to watch her arms on her exit. She's flying her body. She's moving. She's flying and using the wind. All right. She gives good counters. All right. Good checks of the handles and everything else. So again, this is just a quick exit. And right now, she's currently checking her drogue in the door. Fairly good exit. All right. Yeah, there's a lot of things that we can possibly polish, improve, make a little bit better. You know, some of the things from a manufacturer point of view, obviously, you know, did I identify and look at the cutaway or the reserve and everything. But she was also very receptive to making herself better, because we had that conversation and she's doing the appropriate steps. But someone that's how they start. And she's experienced, so you know, she has about 500 or 600 tandems, and she's doing it still that way. She's also willing to accept a little bit of change. She's willing to improve and make herself better to the most current up-to-date doctrine. That's the kind of people we want to associate with, experience, and deal with. Any questions up to this point? All right, we'll move on. Proper exit order. There's a lot that goes into this, all right? Now, in a perfect world, I'm going to tell you, in a perfect world, the proper exit order for tandems would be the lightest tandem to the heaviest tandem. Why? Because drift, free fall drift, and drifting over somebody else. And it's kind of like putting out, you know, a big way that floats to a smaller way, or, you know, belly versus free flying. All right, so that's in a perfect world. But obviously we don't necessarily fully live in a perfect world. And when we do live in a perfect world, and that's maybe how we put it out there, you're going to have someone out there that, you know, deploys maybe a little bit higher. You're going to have someone out there, the student isn't feeling all that good, so they got to, you know, either spiral down or hold or whatever. So ultimately, we want you to have a plan and communicate. Now, with this, have a plan, communicate. How many times, again, with that culture, all right, even on the exits, you have that culture, that person that wants to be the cool guy and just bomb out however they want to. Here on the load order, the exit, say, oh, no, I have seniority. I want to get out, all right? Or I want to get on the ground as fast as possible to get my favorite rig, all right? I just want to spiral down really fast as I make it fun for me who really cares about the passenger. These are all things that come into play when you have that new instructor that's trying to go and do right. They get that drop zone brief, right? Well, they also get that instructor brief. This is how things are done. This is what we're going to do. But these are things that you want to think about. Who's on the load? All right? Do I have someone, a tandem instructor, that's doing a quick turn? Do I have, who has video? That video person, whether we like it or not, that video person's jumping a sub 100 canopy and we're last out of 4 tandems. That might not work all that well for that video person trying to make it back. So now we kind of have to, maybe open up a little bit higher so they have a little bit more altitude, whatever. Again, communication within the entire plane. Not just the tandem instructors, but who's the person in front of you? Do we have AFF students? So now you already know that on the bottom end in the traffic pattern, I'm going to be dealing with someone that I'm going to expect not to see me. Am I dealing with that person that just got cleared to jump on their own and they want to do something fun? Now, one nice thing is being able to talk with Jeff over dinner and multiple times. I learned a little bit about how your guys' program is, which is phenomenal. I love it. They have to get for their B license, it's kind of like their jump master license. So not just any jumper is going to jump out of the plane in front of a tandem and not have a plan as to, hey, I'm going to track, all right? Not really realizing because no one taught them which way to track. So I do understand that you guys do have some things in place, but let's just face it. Sometimes that jumper gets disoriented. Sometimes, other things happen. But ultimately, you guys as tandem instructors, should you be relying strictly or specifically on that jump master without necessarily knowing what's going on? No, because again, you have someone that you are responsible for. So you want to have the bigger picture. That doesn't mean you have to take over control or anything like that, but you do need to know. Is it video? All right, size of their canopies, obviously. Maybe it's a special occasion. Maybe it's someone a birthday, a wedding proposal. All kinds of stranger things, happens. And again, it's someone like on a quick turn. All right? Communicate. It's a verb. Share or exchange information, news, or ideas. The prisoner was forbidden to communicate with his family. Similar as liaise, talk, converse, shoot the breeze, one of my favorites. Chew the fat, a secondary. All right? And then, of course, pass on, right? An infectious disease to other person or animal. The disease is communicated from a person to another. All right? Similar as transmit, transfer, spread, pass on. Where does that come into play? Communication when it comes to sometimes that cultural alignment. We go somewhere else. Hey, this is our drop zone rule. Well, this wasn't exactly how I was trained. Oh, but it's okay. This is how we do it here. Okay? Now, when it comes to changing rules, all right, from the manufacturer, this is where I stand from it. To change a rule, are we really changing it or are we adding to it? Because to change it means that it doesn't involve anything and you're going to do it your own way. That's the incorrect way of looking at it. But if I have a rule and I work here at this specific drop zone, I'm going to add to the rule. That's perfectly fine because you're adding your SOPs, you're adding a little bit of safety based on what you believe or what you want added to the doctrine. That's where things should be done. It should be adding to the rule, it shouldn't be changing a rule. All right? There are ways, other ways to get to 9. I understand that. But remember, if 9's a doctrine, we need to stick with that. We need to sometimes control the other tandem instructors, and most of the time it is those instructors that are experienced that want to do things their way. All right? Now, granted, when someone comes in, I'll do things your way, but I need a reason why. And does that conflict with doctrine? And it's a two-way street. Say, for instance, we have someone, well-respected examiner, puts a phenomenal product out there, sends them out. They go out, hey, they want to get better. They are expected to learn other things. So it comes to that drop zone. Says, hey, I'm a new instructor. I'm ready to go to work. How do you do things? All right? They get explained. Well, it's like, okay, well, I was taught this. As the experience or as that drop zone, as that culture, they shouldn't be like, this is how we do it. No, actually, what they should be doing is, well, okay, that's what you learned. Why? Explain it to me. All right? Because maybe they just are able to make your program better. Maybe they have some shared new knowledge, that new bit of doctrine that's the most up to date as should be being taught, to our candidates or those instructor candidates from that examiner, the most up to date that maybe that drop zone or maybe that experienced jumper at that drop zone doesn't fully have yet or know. So again, sometimes with that experience, know when to ask the questions and know when to learn yourself. All right, where is the I in team? I really know there is an M and an E, and some people say, ooh, that's me. But where is that I in team? Now, with the conclusion, we talked about doctrine, we talked about some exit problems, exit order, all right, and communication. Within all of this, everywhere within that, everywhere within any phase of a tandem jump, you have culture that can change it, distort it, or, improve it even. All right? So again, let's not change the doctrine. Let's add to for whatever it might suit your guys' purpose. But it's a two-way street when it comes to learning or getting a little bit better or however you necessarily want to look at that. How are you going to get to 9? Are you the one that has, a lot of information that you just need to put some aside to get better updated? Or are you going to be, this one that also doesn't have much information and needs to learn? Who are you going to let mold yourself? As examiners, or especially as an examiner, are you giving your candidates an exit program or an exit strategy? Hey, for the first few jumps, these are the kind of people you need to take on your jump because you're still new, you're learning, it's not a problem. These are some people that, what drop zone you go into? Oh, great, I know this person. If you have questions, get with that person. They will steer you correctly, all right? Get, what kind of exit strategy are you giving your candidates? And then the experienced jumpers at other drop zones, what kind of culture are you going to push on to those new instructors? And are you willing to learn a little bit about what the new doctrine is or how to improve yourself? A good tandem instructor will use good judgment over good skills every day. Literally. Think about that. All right? Am I using the skill that I have or am I using judgment? And, based on good judgment, I'm applying the skill that's needed. There is a difference. Both should be used, but you shouldn't use some skill and judge something later on. All right? It should be use that good judgment and apply the skill to reinforce that judgment or take care of any situation that's needed. Any questions? All right. I think we possibly went a couple of minutes over. I started a couple minutes late. I do apologize. So since there are no questions, I appreciate your guys' time and attention. And I do hope that you will leave here not just listening to it, but honestly do challenge it. Challenge it against your own procedures. Challenge it against your drop zones procedures. And try to help, if anything, the whole industry as itself just to be safer and move on and obviously evolve to a better place. Thank you very much.